500 gross tons. As I say, they were wooden, usually smaller kinds of vessels, and they didn't meet the standards set by the Coast Guard for safety on the high seas. So they were impounded. They were not allowed to leave the port if they had already entered the port until they had made certain kinds of improvements. Now, these boats were interesting because they were in a double bind. There would be something like $50,000 worth of improvements that needed to be made, but in order for the boat owners and the crews to have that kind of money, they needed to leave the port with the goods that they had and go complete their business. But they weren't allowed to leave the port until they'd made the improvements, and they couldn't make the improvements until they had the money by leaving the port. So it was a double bind, a classic impasse. And then essentially what happened is, like to the Crossroads boat, is that the Haitian owners lost the boat because they were impounded on the river. They were paying docking fees, $100 a day. They couldn't pay the docking fees. The dock owner got the boat, and the Haitians lost. Well, this is a classic example of the underdog, getting the shaft. Ultimately, we made this photograph of that boat. Barbara Jo Ravel made that photograph among many, many photographs. But I should back up a little to say, going in, then the working methodology that Barbara Jo had was she was going to tour the site. We call it a problem tour. She's going to live in the Miami River at the Miami Inn, bed and breakfast place. She's going to tour the site. She's going to go out every day, see who she meets. She's going to think about the situation. She's going to record her dreams, and just take whatever clues she can get in that way, and then go to different parts of the river, interview people, find out what's going on there, kind of like acting like the Teoria. So she was a Teoros acting on behalf of the Florida Research Ensemble as a Teoria, as a witness on behalf of this Teoria. So, but the particular methodology was that this act of inquiry, as we're saying, we're calling it testimony, was undertaken as a divination procedure. And by that we mean, and this was the part that we borrowed from the Haitians themselves, and that is, it was sort of an adaptation, kind of an interface metaphor, but what we liked about divination is, in divination, in terms of consulting, it is the same word. So when a carent is the one who has a problem, the carent, Barbara Jo would be the carent. The carent would go to the diviner with the problem, and the word would be that the carent consults the diviner. So we thought, this is nice, a nice pun. This is a consultant, but now the direction of consulting is shifted. Instead of the empirical or scientific consultant telling the river what's wrong with it, here's the problem, pollution or whatever. In the case of divination, the river tells the carent what the problem is. So it just reverses, kind of a Copernican revolution in consulting. And in fact, the slogan for the emergency is "Problems be us." It's not, so it's like, well, we're the problem. The reason why that problem out there still exists and is intractable is because it's inside us. That thing out there is inside us. This is the kind of correspondence, the kind of signature theory that we are working with. It's basically, the way our method started, is basically the theory of modernist imaging. The modernist poets, beginning with Baudelaire on through, basically worked to say that by showing something outside, some condition, the condition of a house, the condition of a street, of a particular person, of something in nature, that the way that condition was described evoked the feeling of the poet, evoked the feeling inside. It wasn't expressionist in the sense that I already have this feeling, I know totally what it is completely, I'm just going to find some image out there, but rather it would be in the interaction with the outside world, the inner world became clear, became defined. And so there was this inside-outside, what Lacan calls extimacy, in which the border between the inside and the outside became defined by this interaction with the outside world. And of course, as you can see, it's the perfect theory for photography. It's the perfect theory for the new apparatus of digital imaging, or of just of imaging in general, because when you're working, but let's take photography as the pure example. I mean, basically what you're working with is you have to work with pictures of things that are out there. But of course you don't want to just document the things that are out there. You want to add a dimension of intelligence, of perception, of insight, of feeling, of spirit, of thought. Those inside invisible things have to be supported by those outside external things. And that was the problem of imaging as a language, and of course the modernist poets figured out how to do that. And you can just go on through Rilke's Weltinnenraum, Eliot's subjective correlative, and so on. There's many, many different versions of it. Ezra Pound's ideogram, and the inside and the outside became expressive of one another. So this was kind of the poetic imaging method that Barbara Jo had in mind, done in terms of a divination structure, in the sense that when she toured the Miami River, she was looking for any clue or any cue that would trigger an inner feeling. Something out in the river would trigger an inner feeling, and she was doing it specifically in the context of divination. As you know, the way divination works is the current has a problem, and when they go to the diviner and they consult the divination system, they have to pose what's called a burning question. They have to formulate a question related to their problem. Oftentimes it's a love problem, and indeed Barbara's problem was a love problem. She was in a relationship with Ron, and she wanted to know about that situation. It was a troubling situation. They were fighting all the time, arguing. Should she stay in that relationship? And she and Ron had tried many other things. They tried traditional therapies, if you like, couples counseling. They're both intelligent people. They tried talking it through, all family healing techniques and stuff. And as with any good divination question, other techniques, other methods have to have been tried and failed for divination to really work. So Barbara Jo had this personal problem, and so she posed the question to herself: should I stay in my love relationship? What is going on with my love relationship? She had that question in her mind. Then she went into the zone, and she said, "Let me see if the zone will answer me. That world out there, that public historical world. What do I recognize? Do I see myself out in that world in some way?" And this is the way divination systems work. That is to say, they are cognitive maps. They are ways in which oral peoples connect individual lives to public life, to public wisdom. A good diviner will know basically all the stories that the society knows. An oral civilization will put all of its knowledge into its stories. Those stories will be available. The diviner will be a person who knows those stories. There'll be a chance system, consulting that will connect the personal story with the public knowledge, wisdom, and that will create this map linking the individual with the public story. So this is kind of what we were doing with our divination interface. Was we want to link Barbara Jo's private story with the public story of the Miami River, and find this connection, find this image, that will evoke the feeling. And the way we were thinking about that in terms of a public methodology was that in her consulting with the river, what Ravel was doing as a teoria was tuning the river. This term attunement is actually from Heidegger. And Heidegger is really working in the tradition of the Timaeus. That is, he's working in the tradition of classical Pythagorean theories of the cosmos, in which the music of the spheres is understood to be a kind of an account of the way in which the world works. That is, the music of the spheres, the Pythagorean theories in which the idea was that strings, ficelle, have different tensions, have a mathematical ratio of tuning that's absolutely precise, and that then this was, of course, ultimately theorized by Kepler and so on as being, but even before that,